half in the bag.
Honestly, you won't give up on me.
I don't get it. Whose f***ing hand is that?
And why would she leave the door to her hotel room unlocked?
I don't get it.
Doesn't she remember what happened to that guy when OJ tried to steal back his sports memorabilia?
Well, now that we've finished The Haunting of Bly Manor, do you want to talk about it?
Oh, geez.
Oh.
I really want to drink this coffee. But I don't know if you could see on camera, a chipped piece of glass came off my Jabba the Hutt mug. I may have already swallowed it. It may have fallen on the floor, or it might be in the liquid. So I've got three options.
Okay.
One is a bad one.
Drinking it?
Having already swallowed it
Well,
is the bad
that's the
option.
worst one, yeah.
Yeah, but if I drink it very slowly and sort of filter it, I may catch it before I ingest ceramic.
There's actually a fourth option, which is that you move the liquid to a different cup. That's an option.
Whoa, there's brand new Halloween cups over there. Can you get
Hey,
one?
there you go, yeah.
Hold on, everybody. So hold on. If you need to go use the restroom.
These haven't even been opened.
Okay, good. That means they're probably sort of clean.
Eventually we might, oh, this one's got a giant crack in it. Eventually we might talk about some streaming things, but this is more important.
All right, here we go. If you're just coming back from the bathroom now, I'm pouring the liquid in here to make sure there's no...
Oh my God, it's spilling everywhere. It's all over the keyboard.
I found it!
Did you really?
I found it, everybody! I found it!
Show it off to the camera. This is important.
I could sleep.
Hey, look at that!
I could sleep well at night. I found the chip. So whoever sent this in, I will not be suing you for my bleeding ulcer that will result from this. So I found it, and now I can drink my coffee out of a plastic Halloween novelty cup.
This is legitimately the best news I've heard in months.
And this is one of the most riveting half of the bags we've ever done, Jay. Oh, it flew right on the PPE.
Oh, God.
Someone's going to inhale it. So one of our heroes at the hospital.
I'm gonna put it in the shot glass.
Now putting it in a different glass that's meant to consume a liquid is probably also a bad idea. Why don't you just dump it on the floor, Jay?
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to talk about Haunting of Bly Manor.
Yes.
Because there's no movies out.
No.
What's playing in theaters? You know, I've never looked.
Well, the last one is Tenet, the last movie ever in
What
theaters.
happened to Black Swan?
Black Widow canceled due to coronavirus.
It's just put off?
That's in the nebulous. We don't know what's happening with it yet. Because the movie that was supposed to save theaters and bring them back and bring the hordes of people back was Tenet, and it flopped horribly. So all these movies that were gonna come out in like November, December, they're like, never mind.
You gave them cold feet.
So Tenet, ironically, was the movie that killed theaters. And
I-
just to be clear, like for people that keep saying, when are you gonna review Tenet? When are you gonna review Tenet? One, we're not going to the fucking movie theater, but two, I didn't care about Tenet either way.
No, I know.
More Christopher Nolan stuff. I bet it's just as good as other Christopher Nolan movies, and I don't give a shit.
I can tell you this. I've never seen a trailer for Tenet. It never crossed my path.
Okay.
I'm vaguely aware that it has something to do with time going forwards and backwards.
Yes.
And then I thought the movie was called Tenant for the longest time, and then I saw it was called Tenet, and then I said, oh, well, that's neat. That's a palindrome. Okay, yeah. And then I fell asleep because I had too much rum.
Okay, that's fair.
And then the next day, I forgot about everything that happened the previous day.
Welcome to 2020, Mike.
Yeah, so that was the last I thought about Tenet.
Yeah. Did you ever see?
It was called Tent, and it was about a circus that went backwards and forwards, like an elephant stumbles during its act and falls into a crowd, and then like the ringmaster runs in the back and he has a giant like switch.
Like a time switch?
Yeah,
Hey.
and it's like built by this magician. Like it's all It takes place in like the 1800s, and this like weird magician built this magical time. Oh no! Coco the elephant fell on the crowd. He pulls the switch. Then it turns out that one of the people that Coco the elephant crushed was a young Adolf Hitler.
Oh.
And so they have to, in 1942, the GIs, under a special mission, have to go find the old switch hidden in a basement in Bulgaria where the
forward
circus
time
was.
again.
Yes, and no, go back to that moment when the elephant fell, crushing young Adolf Hitler in the Bulgarian circus in 1892.
Yeah.
Yes. And then they realized that sitting next to Adolf Hitler was Madame Curie, who created a cure for botulism or whatever. And so they have this moral dilemma. It's much like that episode of Star Trek, City on the Edge of Forever.
Okay.
So a premise like that, but you have a Bulgarian circus in the late 1800s and a horrific elephant accident and a time-traveling lever created by a magician who
Played by Hugh Jackman,
who may or may not be human.
Oh my God!
And then the ringleader, of course, we'll get Danny DeVito because he played the ringleader in Dumbo. What a great ringleader! Or maybe we'll get Peter, not Sarah Fenowitz. Who's the littler Peter?
Peter Dinklage?
Dinklage. He would be a great ringleader.
Sure.
Ringmaster? What do they call it?
Ringmaster, yeah.
Ringmaster, not ringleader. Ringleader is somebody who like runs an underground.
It's like a crime unit,
thing.
yeah.
I meant ringmaster the whole time I was saying that. And then, it'll be this whole thing. Peter Dinklage will be much older in the future, in 1942. He'll be elderly, and he'll have to accompany the crack team of United States Marines during World War II. And they have to fight past the Nazis to get into the underground bunker where the Bulgarian circus equipment is held.
Okay. I like this.
Okay, it's called Tent.
If studios or if movie theaters want to bring back people, this is the movie that would do it. Not Christopher Nolan's loud, convoluted crap that everybody's tired of. They want circus elephants sitting on Hitler.
Right. Who doesn't want that? Anyway, let's talk about Haunting of Bly Manor. This is a Netflix original. It is the next film in the Haunting of series. The original, or the first one was Haunting of Hill House. Gothic horror is my jam. And this is based on the Turn of the Screw.
Partially. Two kids in a mansion. That's about where it ends. And there's spooky ghosts.
It's a 1896 horror novella by author Henry James.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, in 1896, a guy named Henry James is not writing a lesbian love story.
You don't think so?
I'm just saying it probably didn't happen. But you take this classic. The other one is Shirley Jackson. Mm-hmm. This is a different author, but still they're mining the gold from those vintage Gothic horror novels or novellas.
That I'm sure coincidentally are public domain.
I don't know.
All I know is if you want to see a more accurate remake or retelling of Turn of the Screw, you should watch a film that came out earlier this year called The Turning, starring Stranger Kids.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't think it was as bad as everyone said. It's not particularly good, but that was like, it had like 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and people were saying it's the worst thing ever. Right. It's like,
No.
It's got good performances, some decent atmosphere. It's just that the story gets kind of stupid, and it doesn't really have an ending. It has like multiple endings and no ending.
I was watching Haunting of Bly Manor, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is based on the Turn of the Screw. There's another film based on the Turn of the Screw. It's called The Others with Nicole Kidman.
I have not seen that since the theater. Is that what it was based on?
Yeah, that was another incarnation of the Turn of the Screw. And I watched The Turning, And I was like, is that the movie where the parents walk into the lake at the end and kill themselves?
Well, that's The Boy.
And I was like, oh, that's The Boy.
That's a little classier production called The Boy.
But it was also, but it was similar in the fact that a nanny au pair girl out of her element comes to work at a big palatial estate somewhere in England, I guess. I don't know. This is kind of where all this, like, the ghost stuff comes from. That mid 1800s period when people started doing seances. And,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they talked about ghosts before then, but the modern era, the Edwardian period of society when they would start to do seances. Ghost photography was a thing way back in the day when photography first started, and then photographers realized they could double exposure. I can take a picture of your dead loved one. Pay me $100 and your dead loved one will appear in a photograph of you. And then there's a I just need a picture of your dead loved one, preferably a negative. So I can conjure their spirit. And then they do a double exposure and there's a ghost in the photo and everyone's amazed.
Are you telling me that people have been taken advantage of for centuries now? This isn't a new thing?
There's a whole building devoted to it. It's called Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum. Listen, Jay, but ghost stories where the first episode or the first season of American Horror Story is about a haunted house.
Yeah.
It's a very classic, traditional. People that die in the haunted house are trapped in it. They can't leave the perimeter, and that's kind of Haunting of Bly Manor. An American au pair in the 1980s comes over to England, and then she has to take care of Miles and Flora, her two little kids who have been portrayed by numerous actors over the years in The Turn of the Screw.
Sorry if I scared you.
I am sorry.
I like gothic horror. I think you do too, I don't know.
Well, I like, yeah, I do sometimes. Depends on how it's executed, of course. But I like Mike Flanagan a lot, who I was disappointed to find out he only directed the first episode of this season. He did the entirety of Hill House. And I think this suffers a little bit from that. This feels a little more generic TV showy in terms of the execution. Cinematography's fine, like the lighting and stuff is still very similar, but it doesn't seem to have that kind of life that he brings with like his camera movements. There's nothing like the episode in Hill House that's almost all like one take. There's nothing quite like that in this.
I would have to rewatch every episode and take notes, but I think I disagree with you because when the credits would roll, I would wait for that directed by credit. And then I would see a name that I don't recognize, and then I would say, "Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be artsy. They got somebody that I've never heard of." And then you notice little style choices that are different in every episode. It's like a movie with multiple sequels with different directors. You know, some are a little more like,
or a season of a TV show where there's different directors for different episodes.
Well, you know
that's what
though,
this is.
This has more artistic freedom.
Well, what I like and don't like about this whole kind of format, because now it's on Netflix, it's a limited series, it's not like a continuing every season, you know, it's just a continuation of the same story. And what I like is that allows the storytelling to be done in a different way. How it's like, okay, the first few episodes we set up our main character, we set up her scenario, but then we can do a whole episode that's just focusing on one character, which you can't really do on a more traditional TV series. So I like that freedom as far as the storytelling goes.
Yeah.
The side characters in this, I like that they could do that focus on them, but in terms of this series, it didn't completely work for me. I like the side characters. I just don't think that especially when you finish it, the overall story, I didn't feel like it added that much to it, knowing the specifics of their backstories.
I suppose I could see it that way. I'm more happy that the ending was satisfying, and I don't want to get into spoilers too much. You got the backstory of the origin of the main ghost, and that flashback episode that went back to 1600s.
Whatever it was, the black and white episode.
The black and white episode.
which was my favorite episode.
It was excellent.
Yeah.
Let's just break it down like this, right? Episodic television. You got something like Star Trek: The Next Generation. I haven't brought it up before, but I'm going to bring it up now. Star Trek: The Next Generation. You got 26 episodes a season. Every episode has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has to end, unless you're doing a two-parter, of course. And it's done in 5 acts. It's done in 41 minutes.
There's a science to it.
Intro, 4 acts. You can't stray. You can't take 25 minutes to have a scene where Counselor Troy smokes a cigarette and reads this book and has a flashback to when she was 10 years old and something happened to her. And that takes up 20 minutes of a 41-minute episode.
Right.
You can't do that. You don't have that freedom. You have to hit all of your beats perfectly down to the second. And every
Because you also have to factor in commercial breaks.
Yeah,
So
those
you
are the
need-
acts.
Yeah.
And so you have to ramp up to the commercial break. Something interesting happens right before it. Next act starts. Rising tension, conclusion.
Yeah.
It's like a perfectly laid out blueprint. And every episode's different.
Yeah. You're still telling a story, but you do have that confinement.
It's very confined. And then you have something like Haunting of Bly Manor, where you have freedom of 10 episodes to go off in these directions, but as long as you tighten it up and you conclude it and you know what your ending is.
Yes, that's an important part too.
And see, that's the positive of these freewheeling 10, 6, 8, I don't know, long seasons. But then you have like dumpster fires, like Star Trek Discovery or Star Trek Picard, to where the show starts and halfway through the season, all the writers quit. No one knows what's going on. They're making shit up. They don't know how it ends. They just keep stringing you along until the season's over, and then everyone shrugs their shoulders and they say, thanks for watching all 10 episodes, suckers. We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Star Trek Discovery Season 2. No one knew what was going on. It was a dumpster fire from beginning to end, and they just kept stringing you along. Or like, what's that show, Lost?
Lost, yes.
I mean, that was that. Like, so as long as you have a really good plan, and you can flesh out characters, you can go this way, and you really have a good idea of where you're going. That's what Haunting of Bly Manor felt like to me. It felt indulgent at times, but then it felt worthy of indulgence at other times.
Well, it had a satisfying payoff, and they managed to successfully end 2 episodes with the exact same cliffhanger.
Yeah.
We have a cliffhanger, and you're like, oh my God, I got to watch the next episode. You go to the next episode, you watch the entire episode, and then you get to the end, and we're right back to that cliffhanger from the previous episode, and it works.
But there is a ghost that comes out of the lake.
Spoilers, there's a ghost in Bly Manor.
Yeah. There's a ghost, and she has no face. And she comes out of the lake and she drags people into the lake. She cracks their neck first, in some cases, drags them into the lake, and no one knows why.
Yeah.
And it's
this goes on
spooky.
for like 7 episodes. You never know.
And a lesser show would just have that happen. Lady in the lake.
It's spooky.
It's spooky. But an entire hour-long episode is devoted to setting up the Lady in the Lake's backstory.
Yeah, and it's not set up in the beginning. It's not strings you along, but you get invested in the modern day story. You don't really understand what's going on with the ghosts, and then they say, "Okay, before we wrap this shit up, we're gonna really expand on this backstory."
And it had a more powerful impact
as a result of it. Yeah,
done later,
of telling it that way.
because then you know. It's like a double whammy. It's like you get punched in the face, then punched in the gut.
Sure.
So Danny, our lead hero, our au pair, gets grabbed by the ghost, and we had seen previously with the guy character, I forget his name too. The same fate happens to him. So that's always key too in horror. You set up just how horrific something is that can happen to somebody.
Yeah.
Then it starts happening to someone you really care about. And then you're like, oh my gosh. And then we're like, if that's not scary enough, because we know we get the backstory of it.
Yeah.
And then it becomes even more depthful and
Well, it
resonant.
becomes you're already concern for the main character, but then when you get the backstory of the ghost in a very kind of traditional, classical ghost story way, there's a sadness to it. As the title says, like a haunting quality to it, where there's a sadness to the supernatural elements.
Melancholy.
Melancholy, yeah.
That's the whole crux of Gothic horror, Jay.
Yes.
Is
and I like that more than, I mean, the James Wan stuff, Conjuring movies can be fun. They have their place too, but in terms of something that like resonates and sticks with you,
Yeah.
This is where it's at.
There's emotion to it. It's not what, visceral.
No.
Like primordial, like fear, the just survival.
This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's not that. And that has its place, and that there's a certain quality to that too. But this is more, it's more emotional. It's more sad, especially the end of this.
Yeah.
It's
well, this especially
bittersweet.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'd say more so than the first season. The first season's very emotional too, but this one, that's about like an entire family. This is so centered on two characters, really.
Tragedy.
It really is like, and it earns the emotion that it gets by the end of it.
Definitely.
Because it's barely a horror story.
It's a love story.
It's a love story, and
They
if I had a
that.
complaint about the show, it's that there's a lot of dialogue that is very telling you exactly what the themes of the show are.
You said it was a ghost story. It isn't. It's a love story.
And she could not risk the most important thing. Her most important person.
Sometimes, once in a blue goddamn moon, I guess, someone like this moonflower just might be worth the effort.
And that's one of them where they're like, it wasn't a ghost story, it was a love. Like, yeah, we got that.
That the conversation with a bride was a little on the nose. And
There's a handful of that throughout the season where it's really, the dialogue is spelling out how you're supposed to feel. And so much of it is told just visually where you don't need those specifics.
No. But damn if every actor in this isn't great. There's not one standout that's bad.
They even cast Greg Sestero from The Room.
What's going on here?
He kind of took me out of it because he's at the very beginning and the very end. But it's almost like it takes some balls to cast him in a serious project. And they went for it. Through no fault of his own, he was distracting, but it's like you cast him and like people are going to see him and they're going to think of The Room. I suppose, yeah. A soccer mom watching this just because it's on Netflix probably
I
doesn't.
didn't recognize him at first. He's not given close-ups.
Shall we?
I think I'll stay here a moment.
You okay?
Just enjoying the fire.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, I think Hill House is more consistent in terms of quality from episode to episode, but I think this one has a stronger payoff.
Yes.
Because this season, it starts pretty, it's slow, but it starts good. The middle couple episodes lost me a bit. Like they introduced the dream hopping stuff, which I found kind of annoying and didn't really have a satisfactory payoff. I mean, it ties in a bit with the theme of like ghosts as memories or memories of ghosts. Like I get that, but in terms of how it was executed, I didn't really like it. But then those last 2 or 3 episodes, solid.
But see, that's me coming from a lover of all things paranormal and ghosts. I like that idea of a different version of what it is to be a ghost, where memories, they exist in moments. And time doesn't have any meaning, and they have to keep repeating moments, sometimes horrible ones. It plays with time, it plays with perception, and what it's like to be dead.
Yeah.
Haunting of Bly Manor, great. 6-hour or 8-hour long movie. And that you don't have to sit in a coronavirus-filled movie theater next to a fatso eating nachos in your ear.
And as we said, it's something that they can play around with traditional narrative structure with, because they don't have to follow the rules. They're not in a 3,000 theaters and have to please the same audience that's going to see the Avengers.
Media's changing.
I know. It's great. It's on Netflix, the same platform. If that's not your thing, you can watch the latest Adam Sandler turd. Or you can watch a 30-minute short film where David Lynch interrogates a talking monkey.
Right.
She was the love of my life. I'm not shitting you.
Endless possibilities for the way stories can be told in streaming media.
And your mainstream horror film, no characters have to have a case of the not gays. You can just go ahead and have them have a case of the gays.
They're just fucking gay.
And you know what? Fuck it, everybody loves it. It's a way to experiment, and you don't have that risk. You don't have that risk of, oh God, we're putting this in 3,500 theaters.
You have to put this element and this element and take this out.
Yes, and we have to do this and this, and we have to have all these kind of big characters, and you can just go, you can go off the rails, you can tell whatever kind of story you want, you could cast whoever you want, and if it finds its audience, it finds its audience. You don't have to worry that much about the money, the market. I guess things can flop on Netflix and be bad and damage their business model.
Or you can have a horrible backlash to something they put out, like that Cuties movie.
Right, you got to be careful. You can't go too far. But you don't have crazy nut jobs protesting outside of the theater. You can't show a lesbian ghost story in my AMC theater. Why, it's 2 miles from my church. You don't have that kind of crap. You just have it, you know? And if somebody doesn't want to watch it, you don't got to watch it.
Yeah.
So I'm
the
all
only
about
downside,
freedom, Jay.
Absolutely. The only downside is that sometimes it can be harder for things to gain any momentum or to find things. Like you might tell someone hey, have you seen this movie? It's on Netflix. And they're like, I've never even heard of it. Because things just get lost in the shuffle because there's so much of it.
That's why we're here, Jay.
Sure.
We're stuck in this VCR repair shop. We got a streaming television right over there. And in fact, we're the heroes. Heroes work here. Put that sign in the VCR window or VCR repair shop window. Well, Jay, another movie came out, an actual movie that I assume was probably going to end up in the movie theaters.
I don't know. This was the trailer for this movie came out, and I sent you a message about it. I was like, Sacha Baron Cohen made a secret Borat sequel. I had not even heard about this. It just showed up one day, which was very exciting.
14 years ago, I released a movie film which brought great shame to Kazakhstan.
Well, a lot of this movie seems to have been shot pre-coronavirus.
I think it's something he probably started production, coronavirus happened, so he just sort of worked it into the story.
Yeah.
Which is the advantage of something like this, where you can, and I think in certain cases have to rework your story as you're going along.
Yeah. But overall, first impressions, I was blindsided by the return of Borat. It's been 16 years.
I think we're on the record as saying we're fans of Sacha Baron Cohen and his awkward, sometimes horrible comedy.
I love Sacha Baron Cohen. He makes me crack up. From even Brothers Grimsby, the Dictator, Bruno, all those movies. If it's a hidden camera thing, or a guise of it being a documentary and you're tricking people and he's doing these crazy characters.
Even when that's not the case though, like Brothers Grimsby wasn't. That's like a narrative, that and what was The Dictator, right?
The Dictator had some hidden camera stuff, it was mostly a narrative.
Yeah. So yeah, but Borat was the first movie, even after 2 years of people doing bad Borat impressions, the movie itself was still funny. The character is funny.
Mm-hmm. I rewatched Borat, and it holds up.
Yeah,
it holds up. I mean, he's talking about Bush, and there's a couple dated things. Obviously the time he filmed it. There's an element of politics to Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh, sure. Well, more so with this one than the first movie.
Michael Panis, I brought the girl for you.
The first movie is, I mean, there's some of that, but it's mostly what works about the character is that kind of, he's naive, but he's racist. But when you present that character to certain people, it brings out the worst in them.
I see a lot of people, and I think there's a dadgum Muslim. I wonder what kind of bomb he's got strapped to him.
Yes.
In a way where you let them dig their own grave.
Yeah.
The most infamous example in the first movie is when he's on the busload of the party bus with the dumb frat boys, and they're saying like all these horrible sexist things. And it's like he kind of just lets them talk.
Right.
He puts them in a position where they think they can talk to this person so openly about these things because he's this naive foreign man character.
They tricked people in the first one and this one. There's a guy from Kazakhstan. He's touring America and he's making a documentary. You know, sign this contract.
Yeah.
And
there's already people talking about suing him for this one.
Yeah.
I know they tried to sue him for the first one too.
Oh yeah. But hidden in the contract very carefully by high-powered lawyers is wording that means you are giving away your rights and you can't sue. And you could try, but so he goes to this dinner party and you know, he's saying offensive things.
In my country, they would go crazy. Oh my. For these two, not so much.
And they're like, oh, he's just a foreigner. But I think the most telling scene from that one was that he's like, well, I got to go make toilet. Okay, go upstairs. And he comes down with a bag of poop. And while funny, it's like the lady then takes him upstairs and says, okay, the poop goes in the toilet and you have to wipe.
Yeah.
And the mere fact that someone has to feel like they have to explain that to a grown adult from a foreign country shows their opinion of people that live in foreign countries, that they are so unsophisticated that they can't even wipe their own butt.
Right.
It's like really, really telling and
where you don't immediately pick up on the fact that this is all a ruse.
Some people do.
You should know right away.
Yeah.
Which does lead into this movie where I feel like this is more hit and miss than the first movie. And it feels like there's a lot of scenarios in this where he probably had an idea of how he hoped it would go. It didn't go that way, so then they had to kind of manipulate it more in editing than the first movie. This felt like way more heavily edited. Like again, I mentioned that scene with the party bus in the first movie where those frat boys are just talking and you just hold on them. This movie felt like there was lots of editing, lots of like ADR, or there's parts where like Borat or his daughter, their faces aren't facing the camera, and they add in lines.
There's a big to-do about the Rudy Giuliani scene.
Yes,
and,
which I don't have any love for Rudy Giuliani, but I almost feel bad for him because that is so heavily manipulated.
The layman will watch it and go, oh my gosh, he was trying to have sex with her or something.
Yeah.
But
he does come off bad in that scene, but they definitely amp it up with the editing.
You could, as editors ourselves, we know you can make people look terrible. You can cut to cutaways that maybe they're smiling creepily in a cutaway, and then you match that with audio that happened 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I don't know what the daughter said.
Well, she's like, let's go into the bedroom and have a drink.
Shall we have a drink in the bedroom?
But like her back's to the camera.
You can give me your phone number and your address.
They said that there's something, they had to either get the lav mic out of his shirt.
Something.
So people don't know lav mics are hidden through your shirt, under your belt, in a pack, and so you have to take it out. And he didn't have to. I don't know why he was laying on the bed to do it.
That's where the
she probably said,
weird
"Why
part
don't you lay
comes in."
back and I'll pull this cord out." And he had to tuck his shirt in, so then you got a shot of him putting his... And then when they're walking into the bedroom, his back is to the camera, and he goes, let me get your phone number.
You can give me your phone number and your address.
Blah, blah, blah,
Oh,
blah.
yeah.
And it's like, okay,
that could have been taken from earlier.
That audio felt weird.
Put down your crumb. She's 15. She's too old for you.
But the jokes, when he writes the jokes, the running of the Americans thing at the end was hilarious.
Yes.
And his costumes when he goes in with the Ku Klux Klan outfit. He's the Jewish guy going into the synagogue.
Oh my God!
To try to get killed by Jews. So when he does his bits are brilliant. And the debutante ball. when she's having her moon blood.
See, that didn't quite work for
I
me
was
either.
laughing.
That to me was like, there's a couple parts where it's like I said, he had an idea of how he thought it would go, but like that part and like the Mike Pence part, when he runs in, he's dressed as Donald Trump, or as he calls him, McDonald Trump, which was what where it's like, okay, nothing really happens other than everybody looks awkward, and Mike Pence just kind of stares at him, and then he gets escorted out right away. Where it's like, conceptually, I can see what was supposed to be funny about it, but there's no real humor that comes out of the actual situation other than the idea.
I mean, that was a hard get to try and get into like the what was it, the CPAC convention with a Trump costume carrying a lady over your shoulder.
Oh, sure.
You're not going to get very far.
Right. So I guess the idea is just the fact that he got away with it that far.
He tried.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of shots with Pence, and he's just like...
He just kind of stares, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's footage of him from earlier.
Yeah.
This is manipulation. I always think back to that scene at the rodeo in the first one.
Oh,
when he's getting prepped by like that super old racist man.
Mm-hmm. And you probably aren't a Muslim. Maybe that's not your
no,
religion.
I am a Kazakh. I follow the hawk.
But you look like one of them.
I ain't gonna kiss you.
Why not?
The people that do the kissing over here are the ones that float around like that.
Are they all alone?
Yeah, stay away from them that kiss.
In my country, they take them and they take them to jail and finish
Take them out and hang them.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to get done here.
High five.
And it's like, ooh.
Yeah, like I said, lets people dig their own graves.
Yes.
And this one doesn't have as much of that.
There's more like moments in the first one where it's like, oh my God, some of these people are real.
What did work better in this one, though, is the actual story. This worked better as a movie than I think the first one did.
Yeah.
The whole relationship, the budding relationship between him and his daughter, actually worked in like a storytelling movie kind of way. It's not the most original thing, but the budding relationship I thought was good. Mm-hmm. The actress that played his daughter kept up with him. I thought she was great. There's actually a lot of moments in the movie. Some of the best stuff is the stuff with her that Borat's not even there for. When he takes her to the like the babysitter, who apparently that woman's upset too.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, that your daddy told you that.
Yes.
But that's not the real world.
I will touch your vagina.
Who, me?
Yes.
Have I ever touched it?
Yes.
Yes.
For even though she comes across good
Well,
in the
that's
movie.
the thing. Yeah, I read that. But yeah, she's doing all the right things.
Mm-hmm.
She's giving her advice. She's like, do you really want to be sold off to marriage? You're a strong young woman. You've got a smart mind. You could do more. And
which works narratively.
I thought
that's what leads to the daughter's arc.
Yeah, I thought she came off as a really good person. So I
think it's just more the idea that you were lied to about what the point of the movie is. So there's that.
Someone should do a Kickstarter to get her a little more money than $3,000.
Well, it was even less than that originally. The first scene where Borat brings the daughter in, I want to say it was like $300 or something. But then she shows up again at the end. Borat's like, will you be my black wife or whatever?
Yeah.
I have a pain in my titties.
Maybe because you're giving away your baby.
To do that scene, they gave her more money.
Yeah. Because it was pandemic times.
Yeah.
Hollywood isn't keen on giving away money, but if you say babysitter, watch this guy's 15-year-old daughter, we're going to give you $25,000, it might raise a red flag to her. So they have to pay her a wage-appropriate amount of money for babysitting somebody, but when the movie comes out, as respectable people...
Then you give her a little bump.
And you say, hey, sorry we did this to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's $50,000. Thank you.
Yeah.
You did a really good job in the movie. That's what I would do. But I'm not a sleazy Hollywood producer. That's like the James Cameron Titanic thing? The first officer of the Titanic, Mr. Murdoch. Lightoller was the second officer. I know a lot about the Titanic. Murdoch in the movie kills himself. Do you remember that part when he first shoots somebody, and then he's like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so terrible. I'm killing myself and fall." That was like, some people said that he shot himself. Most people said he just drowned heroically. So then afterwards, the Murdoch family in Ireland was like, this is kind of awful that you portrayed our great-great-grandfather in this way. He's got grandchildren, he's got a family legacy, he has a foundation, he's kind of famous, he was the first officer on the Titanic. And then James Cameron was like, you're right, here's $1,000 for his foundation.
That was all? I mean, I guess.
It was something shitty like that.
Okay.
And it's like, the movie made $197 billion.
It's the biggest movie in the history of movies.
And you exploited this poor man who was a real life person who didn't die all that long ago.
Yeah.
And you made him look bad by murdering someone and then killing himself. And, well, here's $1,000. Yeah. So Hollywood, they're a bunch of sleazebags. And that's the one thing that kind of... I'm on the fence about Sacha Baron Cohen. I think he's really funny. At the same time, I feel bad for some of the people that have been exploited. The frat guys, awful. They come off awful.
You fucked the shit out of them!
Yeah.
And then you never call them again!
Why you don't call them? Because they do not have a telephone, yes?
No, not because of that. They don't have my respect, you know? I mean...
Our country, the minorities actually have more power.
Anyone that is minority has the upper hand.
I'm sure all those guys look back on that movie now and are just like horribly embarrassed.
Yes, and now they're 38 years old and they probably have kids and they're different people. They've grown up and then this is part of their life forever. Yeah. A word to the wise: never sign a contract to appear in a documentary. And then he goes down to like the most rural, rednecky parts, in the world where people might not get that this is a guy from Hollywood in a costume.
Yeah.
You can't pull that off in New York City or Los Angeles. They'll be like,
yeah. Which is one of the smart things they do in this movie, is the idea that Borat is now famous because of the original film, so he has to wear different disguises.
Yeah, and that adds to the fun of the movie.
Stupid foreign reporter.
Yeah. I just remember I think it was Ali G. Ali G's funny as fuck. I love Ali G. Ali G did a lot of interviews, and it's just like this.
Did he interview Trump?
Well, my idea is to come out with just like these ice cream gloves that make the ice cream not go on your hands and make it all well sticky.
Good luck, folks. It's been nice seeing you. You take care of yourself, okay?
Is you going to be in on that?
Well, it sounds like an interesting...
We just got like...
And Trump's like, we're done. He just gets up and immediately recognizes that this is bullshit. And that happens a lot. And so you go down to West Virginia.
How many other girls are gonna live in here with me?
How many girls you normally put in a cage this size?
One.
People are just like, what? So they kind of answer the question, but they look bad.
Yeah.
So Sacha Baron Cohen making people look bad.
This one
I feel
felt like
sort of sorry for some of the people, not so sorry for the others.
Yeah. This one, like I said, more so with this one, it feels like he didn't quite have as much damning material to work with, so he had to do a lot more manipulation and editing, and more focus on an actual story.
I can open a beer with my small hole.
Look, we gotta be appropriate and ladylike. Okay. This is what you're not supposed to do.
I think most of Borat's stuff is shot in Romania, because Kazakhstan, he'll be like executed
They're not
if he goes
happy
in
with
that
him,
country.
yeah.
So they film in like rural Romanian villages, and then the ministry office where they show is like a Romanian building. But Kazakhstan is a gigantic country.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was small, but I never knew anything about it, and I looked it up, and it's like the 9th largest country land-wise in the world. It only has like 18 million people. So it's like all spread out. There's a couple of big cities, but it's so like spread out and rural. And I was like playing with Google Maps, and you zoom in on these like small rural cities, and some of them have like little markers for like businesses. Oh boy, is it funny.
A store, crime scenes investigation, community center, keep up the good work. Not home goods store, for your shack, Horse Cafe. Auto Restoration Service. Doing a great job. Grocery store. Kazakhstan's second largest grocery store. Very nice. Kazakhstan's first Costco. Kazakhstan's biggest movie theater. 1 screens. Cafe Cosmodrome. Now cockroach free. Home Credit Bank. Most trusted bank in all of Kazakhstan. Maximum security prison. School. Train station. Greatest museum in all of Kazakhstan. Cafe for delivery or takeouts. Cafe for Hillary Clinton's. Water utility company. Highly rated. Weapon of mass destruction monument. 5-star hotel. Nah.
But yeah, so Sacha Baron Cohen is making fun of uneducated redneck whites in the South, primarily.
Yeah.
And then he's also, on the flip side, which was the controversy with the first one, was all the anti-Jewish stuff. And of course, Sacha Baron Cohen himself is Jewish.
Yeah.
He's making fun of Kazakhstanis and their hatred of the Jews.
Yeah. Or just ignorance of other cultures in general.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
Specifically that culture.
Sure.
So he's kind of
But it's meant to parallel ignorance in the U.S. and the way people react to the Borat character.
And it all just comes down to whether or not you find it funny and why you find it funny. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's laughing at the running of the Jew in the first one in the wrong way. The funny part about it...
You have to be really... That's like the people... And this was... every once in a while, it becomes like a controversy on Twitter. People start talking about like South Park. And they're like, South Park raised people to think that Cartman is a hero. And they look up... Like nobody... Cartman is a joke. He's racist and like Borat. He makes fun of Jews all the time. Nobody looks up to Cartman. Nobody has ever looked up to Cartman. But there's this other side that tries to act like there are people that actually think Cartman's funny for the wrong reasons. And I think that if there is, it's just like Borat, it's such a small minority of people.
Yeah.
So that to me is almost like a non-issue.
You're laughing at the ignorance.
Yeah, that's the joke.
That's the joke, is that Borat has his daughter in a cage and, that book that he has.
Her vagina became very angry and bit her hand.
About a girl not touching
Don't
her
touch
own
your vagina or it'll eat you. Yeah.
And the babysitter reading it, she's like, this is not true.
Right. The contrast there of how exaggerated that is, or how ridiculous the idea of that book is, and having people try to react to it seriously because they think that this is, someone from a foreign country.
Yeah. And so someone might say,
they're trying to be polite.
That he thinks misogyny is funny. And it's like, no, the fact is, the joke is that those things really exist or have existed.
Right.
Where misinformation like that, demonizing people or cultures and making fun of, that's what he's making fun of. He's not doing that as the joke.
Right.
So in a way, it's a good thing. In a way, it can be misleading or confusing for people that are dumber.
Well, that's, like we talked about the Rudy Giuliani scene, and now some people are like outraged at Rudy Giuliani when it's so like, I don't know, someone like you and me look at it and it's so clearly, so heavily edited.
Very heavily edited.
It works as a comedy scene in a movie like this, and it serves a purpose in the story of this movie. You look at the way the footage is manipulated, or the way the scenario is manipulated, and how heavily edited it is.
Yeah. And it's super easy to do, even very subtly. Like, and you see it in TV shows. I see it in TV shows all the time, where someone goes, "It's like the ending of Chopped." You ever watch Chopped?
Oh
Jay?
yeah, they always had that dramatic music, and it's someone just standing there.
I love the salad. I almost thought it was like a black truffle vinaigrette when I first saw it. Honestly, little did I know it's blood and broccoli.
I think that you just sort of like warmed up the ribs. They're good, but I wish you transform these a bit and just a little bit more effort into the rib.
Well, they go. Ted Allen is going 5, 4.
4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Please step back.
3, and then you cut the footage of them. They're pouring the thing on at the 3, 2, 1, and you know all that happened maybe 30 seconds ago.
Oh yeah, in the way it's edited, every single episode of Chopped ends with everybody finishing at the last possible second.
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Time's up. Please step back. 3, 2, 1. Time's up. 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Please step back.
Yes, and you can manipulate time. You can manipulate reactions. Someone can go like that to something, and they could have done it 20 minutes ago to something else.
Right.
It's super easy to do, and you do it for dramatic purposes, like Chopped.
Yeah. And that's
most
fine.
people watch Chopped and go, "Oh my God, hurry up!" And I'm just like, that happened a minute. That happened 5 minutes ago.
Sure.
For that guy over there, and you'll see mistakes too. You'll see that guy over there is on his phone. He's all done with his 4 plates. And
You see him in the background of a shot or
yeah,
something.
and they catch him there, 5, 4, and then 2 seconds later they're cutting to him, and he's still plating, you know? So we know how it goes, and it all just depends on what is the end result. The end result...
It's that kind of thing is more forgiving in, like a reality show, or even this movie where it's basically a comedy. Not as forgivable in what's meant to be like a serious documentary.
Right.
Which
Good
this
point.
kind of rides that line a little bit because he is approaching it with sort of a political angle.
Yes.
So it does have that questionable aspect to it that I didn't really get from the first movie. Because the first movie isn't as overtly political. It's more just exposing ignorance.
Yeah. If the end result is to make you laugh, I laughed quite a bit. I think I laughed the most at the debutante ball. I think I was more surprised that exists still.
That's still a thing?
Yeah. It
feels so antiquated.
Miss Drummond is attending Grand Canyon University, where she is double majoring in cage maintenance and electronics with a focus on VCR repair.
But yeah, this feels like a good Borat sequel. It could have come out 10 years ago. It could have come out 2 years after Borat 1.
That's kind of nice, though, that like the first movie came out, it was a huge hit, and everyone was doing their annoying Borat impressions.
5-star hotel. Not.
And he didn't immediately. It's not like Austin Powers, where it's like, we got to make a sequel, we got to make another sequel. It's like he let it die. 15 years later, when no one was expecting it, oh, here's a Borat sequel.
Yeah, it's not as good as the first one. It's a little choppy. The ending was cute. It was a nice way to tie it up. Yeah. Made sense.
Yeah, like I said, I think it actually works better as the first movie is so flimsy in terms of the story. That is just an excuse to get from one set piece to the other.
Yeah.
And this one, the set pieces, not all of them are as strong, but the story is stronger.
Yeah.
So it balances out.
And the Romanian girl they dug up out of
She was
nowhere.
great, yeah.
I thought it was just a American actress doing an accent. She's just a nobody Romanian actress that they plucked out. Probably auditioned 100 of them just to say, "Can you ad lib? You know, can you do this?" So I think her accent might be real.
Okay.
Which and of course, you know, if she was someone sort of famous here, she might get recognized.
Right.
So it was a good pick.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon Prime and it's free, and you don't got to go to a movie theater.
Ever again.
Borat's subsequent movie film. You fist me. Now I fist you? What do you prefer? You fist me or I fist you?
Same time.
Fist each other.
Yeah, there you go.
Huh. Why is there a gun on the table? Jay, do you know anything? Oh my God! Jay's been dead this whole time! I wonder what will happen next.
All right, chefs, winding it down. 10, 9, 8,
Ooh.
7, 6, 5, 4.
Come on, get it plated.